Hello everyone, I hope we're having a great day and we all had a great weekend. Today we're going to quickly touch on what a carbon footprint is as we continue to look at human impacts and just trying to quantify, trying to put a number to just how much carbon dioxide we're putting into the atmosphere. So my first question, just to keep us thinking, we're going to be learning about carbon footprints, but what is just a footprint even? How would you try to describe it to a friend who maybe doesn't know this word? So I thought a footprint, or when we do things in terms of carbon footprint, it's what, oh wait, sorry. So what is a footprint? The second one is what are things that we do to produce carbon dioxide or CO2? So some of these things that we do to produce carbon dioxide, we've looked at in our carbon cycle or nutrient cycles where we had carbon going into the atmosphere from respiration. So when when animals, humans, or sheep or cows, for example, breathe or respirate, they produce CO2. They also produce CO2 in our cars and through using energy, because a lot of energy types, as we've learned, are non-renewables that produce energy. So there's lots of different things that we do that produce energy, or sorry, produce carbon dioxide. So today we're going to try to learn what a carbon footprint is, and then look at some ways that we can reduce our own carbon footprint. I have this good little video that I want you guys to watch. It's going to be in our classroom in the same spot as always, only 2 minutes long. So please pause my video now and go watch that one just before we get started. So our carbon footprint, how we're going to define it, is the amount of greenhouse gases made by our actions. So it's not just carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the biggest one, but it's all greenhouse gases. Methane is another example. So everything we do makes some kind of greenhouse gas. Sadly, like I said, even by breathing, we are producing a certain amount of carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. So anything from using electricity, if we're traveling, like in a car or in a plane ourselves, if we're eating food that has been transported, so maybe think about where our apples come from. A lot of apples come from Washington in the United States. And how do they get to Honduras? Well, they have to get on a big boat. That boat will produce some carbon dioxide as it's coming down here. Or even the factories making the materials that we use every day. So again, a factory might use a lot of electricity to make our table that we're sitting at, for example. So lots and lots of different ways that we can see the amount of CO2 we put into the atmosphere every single day. One thing I found that was interesting is that even just talking on the phone for 1 hour a day uses the same amount of carbon as traveling from New York to London. So if you were to get on a plane, go from New York to London is the same amount of CO2 as just talking on the phone. And I'm not exactly sure how they did those calculations, those numbers, but it is an interesting fact that I found. So I thought this was really interesting. This is a graph that says the activities that emit or maybe produce or make the most carbon dioxide per year based on, this is the US, the United States averages. So we have driving a car produces by far the most. We see this really big line, driving a car. This red one is running the dryer, like when we're drying our clothes. We have turning off the lights. Turning on the lights, I think is this one. Some of these colors are hard for me to see. So this 2001, say having a beer, I think. Did not see that earlier. Running the air conditioner to keep us cold. Flying in a plane. This dark one. Maybe drinking a coffee. Running the dishwasher, eating meat. Using the refrigerator, and maybe this small one is whatever is left that I haven't seen. So some of the colors are a little hard to see, but you guys can see that different things use different amounts of CO2, especially on a normal United States average. I'm sure it would be somewhat similar in Honduras. We would have to look at some of our numbers or some of the studies, the science behind it. But everything we do uses some amount of electricity or produces CO2 directly. If we're using electricity, it's producing or making CO2, what we say indirectly, meaning the electric company is making the CO2 and then we're just using the electricity. So, an interesting thing, but why is it so important to worry about or track our carbon footprint? Why does it matter? I think that's always an important question to ask when we're learning something. Why does this matter? So, the big reason is that this can help stop global warming and climate change. We learned that global warming and climate change is such a big problem that we see sadly every day now. You can see a lot of the effects of it, especially this year with 2 hurricanes. But if we all can lower our carbon footprint, slow down everything that we're doing, everything that we're using, then we can maybe stop or help stop global warming. So, yeah, we need to stop the increase of CO2 emissions if we want to save our planet. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to save the planet. If we all do a little bit, so if everyone were to follow this, guys, it would make a huge difference. So sadly, not a lot of people take the time to learn about this or to change, even once they do learn about it, the situation, their own habits. So this is a good little test that I'm going to show you guys on how to calculate. I think this is the one I linked in our classroom. I encourage you guys to do your own. I'm going to click through it really fast. So this one is a simpler one. They have some really complicated ones, but I like this one because it's something easy that we can do. So it says your food can make up a carbon footprint. What kind of foods do you eat the most? So for me, I've changed my habits being in Honduras, but I'm going to do my habits as I was a child growing up. So when I was growing up, I ate a lot of meat. So we're going to click on that one. Everyone needs to get to school unless they are homeschooled. How did you get to school every day? When I was in school, my mom or dad would drive me, or when I was old enough, I would drive myself in a car every single day. You might be visiting your grandma in Arkansas, which is another state, or going to Disney World in Florida. When you leave your state, how do you travel? Again, we usually always traveled by car, so a lot of car rides. For me, growing up, everyone has a soft drink like Coke once in a while. How often you have it is important. How many bottled or packaged drinks like juice, pop, or soda did you have? I wasn't, and still don't drink a lot of soda or juice. Drink a lot of water, and you use my water bottle, but I would say maybe once a week, less than once a week, or no, a couple times. Let's say a couple times, because every once in a while I would use a plastic water bottle, just a once use, which also produces carbon. So while this is one, you can't control what's the size of our family. My family was 4. It could be McDonald's, Taco Bell, any kind of fast food. How often do you eat fast food? It was probably about once a week growing up for me. It could be a house, cottage, or even property on the lake. How many houses or residencies? We just had the one. We had one house. Sometimes people have a couple houses. Heat in the winter is important. How does your family stay warm? Especially in Wyoming, it was really, really cold, and the way we stayed warm was, I want to say natural gas. Is it natural gas or no? It was propane. We stayed warm with propane. Which is like our chimbos. It's the same thing that are in our chimbos, but we used it to stay warm. How often do you take out a plastic garbage bag? It was at least a couple times a week. You go into the bathroom to wash your hands or brush your teeth. How often do you leave the water running? My mom was really, really good about making sure we shut it off, especially in the middle of brushing our teeth. So I would say no. You're responsible for mowing your lawn. How do you mow it? My dad actually had a riding lawnmower that he sat on and mowed. Everyone needs to take a bath or shower at some point. How often do you shower or bathe? Growing up, it was a couple times a day. It was usually morning and night. Every other day, more than once a day. I don't like to be stinky. I did not like to be stinky. When you need to pick up groceries from your house, how do you get them bagged? We would usually use plastic bags. Do you turn off the lights when you leave your room or shut down your computer after playing a game? Yep, I usually shut everything off. Everyone needs their downtime. How often do you play on your phone? This one I actually played a lot on my phone, video games, or computer. So I would say it was all day, every day, a couple times a day. When I got home from school every few days. I would say it was almost all day, every day. Not every day. Maybe a couple times a day, I would say. When you eat at school, what does its lunch typically look like? I think growing up, I ate hot lunch from the school on a recycled tray, like we do at Amigos. You need to think about your waste, and we didn't recycle growing up. We should have recycled, but we never, I would say, get recycled. We just threw everything away. Does your family have a compost pile? No. Compost is really cool. Side note, please look into it. My quiz results, carbon what? 88 to 100%. So my footprint is deep. That means I'm producing a lot of carbon. I have a big footprint. Well, you might not realize it, or maybe you didn't even know what a carbon footprint was. It has a negative impact on the Earth. So you can take your test, and then you can even look at some of the ways to reduce it. So they have riding a bike. Maybe we ride our bike to school if we can, if we live close enough. If we buy an electric car rather than a normal car, that's another good way to do it. Can look at different ways to heat our houses. There's some really cool ideas looking into solar, passive solar. We can buy food locally because we don't produce as much carbon when we put things in a big boat or ship them around. We can grow our own food, which is another good way to do it. Growing your own food not only lowers your carbon footprint, it actually takes away, because our plants will take away some carbon from our atmosphere. Could look into renewable sources. This is alternative. It really is talking about all the renewable energy stuff we've talked about, like solar panels. We can recycle. We can plant some trees. Like I said, trees actually take carbon out of the atmosphere. So this is a really cool one to do. That's pretty easy for you guys. Will leave a link, or make sure that the link is the same in our classroom so that you guys can do your own. So let's just quickly look through ways we can lower it. So that's an example from Mr. Max. But some other ideas is ways to lower. Yep, plant trees, recycle. A big one is vote for people who want to use more renewable energy. That's a huge one. It's not something that our own person, like it won't lower Mr. Max's footprint, but a big thing that happened in the United States is we got a new president this year, and he shifted from wanting to use a lot of non-renewables like President Trump to trying to push for renewables energy. So that's a big one. And then the best one we can do as our own people is limit activities that use carbon. So we want to turn off the lights when we're not in the house. We can eat less animal products. Animals produce a lot of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. So vegan or vegetarians, or walk or riding a bike is always helpful. So I want you guys to think of some ideas and draw your own carbon footprint. This is shown in our classroom. This is an example of one to do. So this person said they wanted to go play outside. They wanted to throw leftover food in a compost or ride their bike as an example. So I want you guys to come up with some examples and make your own footprint. And the last thing I'll post in our classroom is just this very interesting video that shows the amount of greenhouse gases produced in just New York City and what it would look like if those gases took the shape of these big balls. So if gas didn't float away like it does and leave into the atmosphere, we would be able to actually see it like it was trash, like it was physical and something we could see. So that's an interesting idea. So I just have that posted as well. But I hope you guys get excited about this. I think it's a really cool topic, a really cool idea of being able to track or understand our own greenhouse gases. If you guys have any questions, as always, please let me know.